Assalamualaikum, and today I would like to present my topic related to endurance training. So at the end of this lecture, the student should be able to understand endurance training and its classification, explain factors that affect the anaerobic endurance performance, and explain periodization of endurance. The classification of endurance is the act of the exercising to increase endurance. The term endurance training generally refers to the training the aerobic system as opposed to the anaerobic system. So endurance can be divided into two categories, include the general endurance and specific endurance. It can be shown that endurance in sport is closely tied to the execution of the skill and technique. A well-conditioned athlete can be defined as the athlete who execute their technique consistently and effectively with the less effort. The factor affecting aerobic endurance performance is the first one is aerobic capacity. Is defined as the maximum capacity of your body to take up and use oxygen during the endurance exercise. VO2 max is measured in millimeter per kilogram of body weight per minute. A person with the high aerobic capacity can take up and deliver more millimeters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight per minute than someone with a low aerobic capacity. One of the most important is an individual cardiovascular system, that is how efficient the heart is as a pump. In fact, research show that 70 to 80% of individual VO2 max is determined by how efficiently their heart can pump blood or oxygen. Another factor is how much oxygen-carrying hemoglobin you have in your bloodstream. If you have more hemoglobin, you can deliver a high concentration of oxygen to the tissue per heartbeat. That's why anemia reduced exercise tolerance have less hemoglobin available to carry oxygen. Another factor is the density of the capillaries around muscle and tissue. If you have the high density of the capillaries, you can deliver more oxygen per unit of time. Finally, the energy powerhouse inside the cell, mitochondria, affect aerobic capacity. Remember that mitochondria use oxygen to make the ATP, which is the energy currency that powers muscle contraction. More mitochondria and more efficient mitochondria increase aerobic capacity and exercise endurance since the cell get more oxygen to produce the ATP, which is the energy. The second one is aerobic exercise performance is lactate threshold. Is the another factor that affect the aerobic exercise. If you go out and run or you do any form of the aerobic exercise and gradually increase the speed or intensity, you will eventually reach a point where the lactate or lactic acid build up in your bloodstream. When oxygen become limiting, your cell use an anaerobic pathway to make the energy. This pathway produces lactic or lactic acid. Your body has the ability to buffer lactic acid up to a certain point. However, when the lactic acid production exceeds this threshold, known as the lactic threshold, lactic acid and hydrogen ions start to build up in the bloodstream, and as a result, we can make the someone fatigue. So the third one is the energy exercise economy is how much energy you expend to a certain amount of work. It is a measure of how efficient your movement are. Since you are required oxygen to do work, it is also indirectly a measure of how much oxygen used to perform a specific task. Factors that affect exercise economy include genetics, the degree of a joint stability, flexibility, increase the flexibility, reduce the exercise economy, neuromuscular condition as well as the genetic. So the other factor that affecting anaerobic endurance performance is gender, muscle mass, muscle fiber type, muscle fiber size, muscle architecture and strength, substrate availability, efficiency of the metabolic pathway, physical activity, and aerobic energy system contribution. So This is example of the factor affecting anaerobic performance. The first one is diet, central nervous system function, strength or skill, environment, and energy production of the anaerobic resources. The method for developing endurance, there are four, so let me explain one by one. Well, the first one is endurance method. You can improve your maximum oxygen intake. The more oxygen you take in, the more energy your body will have, and therefore the longer you can run before your muscles get tired. This type of training is with long-lasting stress and constant intensity without any break. A workout 30 minutes for the beginner will get you going and can comfortably reach 2 hours for more experienced runner. The intensity that is such as your running speed should vary depending on the training goal. So whether you want to do a few kilometers or are preparing specially for a competition. Okay, the second one is interval method. Serve a similar purpose but also benefits stamina, speed endurance and lactic acid tolerance. Training alternates between the high intensity and low intensity phase. Your running phase in the high intensity phase should depend on your fitness level. The recovery phase, known as the rewarding phase, is selected in length so that the body is just fit enough again to up the pace but it is not fully generated. This time can be controlled well by a heart rate monitor, but is unique to each the sportsman. Repetition methods concentrate a competition or specific endurance by improving the aerobic and anaerobic energy supply. This is the transition area in which the lactic acid builds up and depletes to balance each other out. That is to say that energy supply works only just above the oxygen supply. Training is done in the short and medium range with the competitive intensity. Assume you have the appropriate full recovery, for example in the jogging breaks. Competition training is the most unique, specific training methods that is the suggested name in which you train under the racing condition. In the other words, rotating partner can serve as a competitor or this provide technical and tactical tasks too. The training distance should correspond to the racing distance. The goal is to develop competition-specific relationship between all performance criteria and their racing characteristics. A comprehensive preparation for competition should ideally comprise all the methods to ensure the widest possible performance spectrum. The prioritization of endurance. The phase one is preparation phase. The goal is to gradually return rested athlete to a training in slow and controlled routine. For new exerciser, this phase build fitness slowly by performing low-intensity, moderate-duration activity. If you are a seasoned athlete coming off a rest phase, you may have been cross-training and need to slowly return to the activity you will be training for in the upcoming season. Easy, moderate sessions that are comfortable and steady are good way for the most athletes to prepare for the season. Walking, cycling, hiking, and swimming are all the popular options for the exercise. The phase one is to build a fitness base. The real training begins after about a month of the easy preparation. Focus on the improving all the major areas of the fitness, specifically cardiovascular endurance and strength. During this phase, which can last for the several months, you will ramp up your overall fitness, build strength and power, add the interval training and do a variety of the all body exercise. This is the phase when you all jack all the exercise and work on the weakness, your flexibility and balance to develop a solid nutrition plan. The third phase is build the sport specific fitness. The next 2 months are at the time to focus on sport-specific fitness. This is the principle of the specificity, which implies that to be to become a better at a particular exercise or skill, you must perform that exercise or skill. During the this phase, you stimulate a race-like conditions and practice skill needed during your event. Your body is strong and fit and you can focus on the race technique, strategy and mental skill technique. You may also starting competing in the lead up events to get used to actual competition and race day condition. The phase 4 is involve tapering, that is referred to the decrease in training volume the week or two prior to the major athletic competition. According to research, the ideal tapering strategy includes a drastic decrease in training volume, but adding short, high-intensity interval training sessions leading up to the competition. The guideline is include decrease your training volume by 18 to 90%, decrease your frequency of training, number of workout by 20%, for event lasting an hour or less use a 1 week taper, and for event lasting more than an hour use a 2 week taper. The last one is the phase 5 that involve the peaking is referred to athlete being in the absolute best condition, which is the physical, emotional and mental at the specific time for an event or race. The peaking phase of the preparation training can last 1 to 2 weeks and it is the ultimate payoff for the preparation training program. After the taper phase, most athletes will find that their fitness is the maximum for a period of 1 to 4 weeks depending on how they spend that time. The last one is the rest and recovery phase. After you have peak and race, you will need to plan for a certain amount of rest and recovery time. This phase can last from 1 week to 2 months depending upon the intensity and duration of the competition or season. A novice marathon runner may need more rest than an experienced runner who complete several marathons each year. This is critical to help reduce the risk of the overtraining, burnout, injury, and depression. So the distribution of the training of the each type of training. For the preparatory is volume moderate to high, pre-competition is moderate, taper is low to moderate, competition is low to moderate, and transition is low. For the intensity, low is recommended for the preparatory phase, moderate to high is recommended for the precondition, taper is moderate to high, competition phase is the high intensity, and transition is for the low intensity. So that's all from me. Thank you.